In this video, we'll continue editing our photos. So let's come in here. This one should be honestly pretty good as is. I don't know that there's much we need to do. But while we're here, might as well, let's go ahead and come into Luminar just to see if there's a little bit of face brightening to do. See what that'll look like. Just keep it subtle. But okay, come into our edits here. And nope, still don't need to update. I need to, apparently after I'm done with this set, I probably need to update Luminar. I wonder if maybe that's why why it was breaking the action, or it wasn't loading properly, if there was an issue there. Let's actually zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so face, I'm gonna do a little bit of face adjustment, just face brightening. There we go. Skin just a little bit. Actually, let's go back to face. Okay, so here's something. This is actually something I didn't notice this in earlier versions of Luminar. So if you've used Luminar for a while, you notice we go back and this is gone. Really, what's happened is it's over here in the edits. So we have our edits here that it's saved. So it's still applying the edits. It's just over here, we're adding new ones to it. So you can see just a slight little subtle change. Go ahead and apply that. And I'm happy with that. And so once we do that, then we can apply that to some of our others. Since hopefully we're done with our sky replacements. Once this is done saving that edit, Luminar. There we go. So again, super subtle. Just a little bit on her face there. Let's actually, while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead. It takes 2 seconds. Once I have the right tool, it takes that to get rid of that. Just little imperfections there. Okay. I think we're good with this. So we'll go ahead and save, move on to the next one. And let's try our Luminar thing. Since we don't really need to, we can just use the last filter. Let's see what it looks like on this shot. This shot being obviously a different, still the same location, still the parking garage, just inside the parking garage instead of on top of the parking garage. So I'll let Luminar do this. I'll pause the video while Luminar is cranking through this here and be back as soon as it's done. Okay, so Luminar is done. So here's what it looks like after and then before. So I like it. It's just a little bit more, little bit of brightness there. So just brighten up her face just a little bit. I don't think there's really anything else we need to do on this image. So we'll save that, move on. Let's run through the same process, just see how that looks. And again, I'll pause the video while Luminar cranks. Okay, so Luminar's done cranking and it figured out so there's the edit. That might be actually a little bit too much, but because, there we go. Super subtle, just a little bit there. Go ahead and close, save. And on this, we can do the same thing. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Because we're doing basically the same thing for each one. And I've already done it a couple of times. So we will just go ahead and create an action for this. Even though this is a very temporary thing that we're going to use. It popped up on a different window. So this is it's a temporary action just for Luminar. Luminar face light. Okay, so let's record. So we're this is another benefit of using all of the action beforehand. So my layers are the same. So the layers in all my images are going to be the same, which means I can just run through this process, and then once that's done, all the other images are going to work. The action's going to work for the other images, at least in theory it should. As we've seen, sometimes actions can be quite finicky and not work as you expect. But in theory, everything should work perfectly fine. So again, I'll just go ahead and pause the video while Luminar does its edit. So there we go. This one I like a little bit more, just because the way the sun is, it is a little bit darker on her there, a little bit more shadow. Is this something that we can clean up here just a little bit on the ground? There we go. I think we're pretty good. And there's always little tweaks. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to move this above since this should work since everything is pretty much the same. The image is the same for what we did with Luminar, so our skin heal should work perfectly fine to get rid of some of these wrinkles. Okay, that's pretty good. So, just a little bit of cleanup there. All right. So we're good. We'll save that. And I just realized I still have my action recording. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and stop this now. And we can, oops, I want to dock this back again. So it was recording for way too long. I don't want all of these. Once this is done, we don't need to show hide, select brush, do all this. Select all of those after Luminar and just delete those. Okay, so now what we should be able to do is just run this, and it will run through and duplicate it, create our Luminar layer called Luminar, and run Luminar itself, and then just do that little bit of a face light. So again, it's just a way of just working a little bit faster. Actions are great. Obviously, I've used them a lot, but they can be great even for small things like this. Like, I'm just adding a little bit of face light. I'm using Luminar for it, but even if I was doing something like adding in, some sort of layers or adjusting layers or something like that, it's just a fast way of doing that. So see, I like that a lot better. It's a lot brighter there, and I like that. And we're good to go. So go ahead and close out, save that, and move on to the next one. And this is going to be the same. So I'll just hit play and let Photoshop do the edit for us, pretty much. And since this is the same as before, we know it works. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while Luminar does its face light bump. All right, so have that added in. Go ahead and save. Move on to the next one. For this, because this is, we may not need it, but we might. Let's go ahead and add it, and then because I kind of like, I think that's bright enough as is using the light from in the shot. I don't think we really need anything else. But we'll let Luminar do its thing, and I'll be back once that's done, and we'll check it out. Okay, so before, after. I said I wasn't sure if we were going to need it, but I do like that. Just a slight little bump in the face light. Okay, so we'll go ahead and use that, and we'll save that. Move on to the next one, so you can kind of see where we're going here. It looks like most of these edits are really just going to be done automatically for us for the most part, and I love that. Now, realistically, if I had a lot more to do, I would do what we've done before and take this action, turn it into a droplet, and then just drop all of those photos on there. So I wouldn't even have to be here to manually switch between them. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4 images left. So the time it takes to set that droplet up, as we saw before, sometimes you got to tweak it a little bit, get it to work. We had the issue with Luminar where it wasn't launching, and so maybe I need to update Luminar. just the time it will take to do that is really, in my estimation, probably not worth it. So I'm okay with just coming in here and manually doing this. This one here, so this right down here in this corner, this is actually my my step stool that I was using to take some of those other pictures. So she was standing down here, I was an upper level, and then even higher on my step stool to get an overhead angle on those shots. And so I could remove that, although to be honest, you would not have known that that was my step stool unless I just told you that. And anybody who sees this picture is not going to know that. So I'm not sure if it's worth taking the time to remove that. But it is worth the time, at the very least, to see if Photoshop can do it for us automatically. So let's select around here, do a content aware fill, and see if it'll pull in, and just pull that in there and see what that looks like. So it added in this extra little bit there. You know what? Honestly, I'm okay with that. That's because now what we can do is we can come in and we can just say, hey, this little wire right here, go ahead and get rid of that. And then, nope, except it doesn't like it with the spot. So we'll use our healing brush and select, oh, I want to be on the healing brush tool. I am using current below. Yep. Okay. So now I want to size it up and then pull from like right here and just get rid of that because that's the bottom one. Again, you wouldn't know that's the bottom one unless I just told you that was the bottom one, but I was there. That was the bottom one. And so this is the last one that's there. So I just fixed that. But anyway, just a super minor thing. But again, so we'll go ahead and call that good. Save that. Move on to the next one. Oh, and we have it again. So I guess since we did it in one, we're going to have to do it in all of them, huh? All right. Well, we know the process now. It's pretty simple. And realistically, I mean, once we're not there yet. We're not to the cropping stage yet. But I don't even know if this is going to get in the shot. I don't even know if in the final composition if it's going to be there or not. It might for some of them. But this is where something, so if it worked perfect, it worked great. And this is something, just a general rule of thumb. It worked perfectly for this last shot to do the content aware fill, and it worked fine, and it looked good. It got rid of it. If it doesn't work on one of these others, I will use that to my advantage, and that's the image when I give the client, or in this case, McKinsey, the model as the client. And if I give the client the final shots, I like to give some options in the cropping stage. And if one of them doesn't work, like if I were to have to go in there and manually do all this, it's not really worth that time because then I know that I'm going to give them some options. And so I can just say, oh, this is the option where we do a little bit closer up crop. And then the other one where the automatic editing did work, then we can use that one as the full shot and do that. But that's neither here nor there because that worked perfectly. So we're going to have better options in the end anyway. Let's run our action, see what the face light does. The first thing that comes to mind that I see is this right here. I might want to get rid of. At least just to blur it just a little bit. So because everything else in the background is blurred because I had I think I shot this at 1 point. No, I think with both of them in, I dropped it to something more like 4.6. The ones with just her, I shot a lot of them at 1.8, some 1.4. I think that's right. I'd have to go back and look at the metadata to be sure. But the point is that a lot of this is going to be blurred out. But the way that windshield on that car is blurred out just looks a little. So this is why, again, so it did face light on both of them, which is why I like using Luminar to automate that. I think we're good. Actually, since we can see, let's go ahead and do this real quick. Since we can see there. Oops. Just a quick little touch up here. And we're good to go. There we go. And then for this back here, what we'll do is we'll use our heel layer that we've already created. And I just want to make this so it's not a straight line, basically. Just it's distracting to me. And so I'm going to blur it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so it's just not quite as distracting, I think. Maybe a little bit more. I mean, it's obviously a car. I think it's obvious. It is a car. I think it's pretty obvious it's a car. Do you think it's a car? I mean, you know it's a car now, but okay. We're good with that, except I'm also going to, while we're at the little background elements that are distracting thing phase, clean that up. Some sort of dirt or something like that on the ground. There we go. Okay. Yes, save. And the last shot. Okay, so this is similar to the one we did before, right? And I think we added just a very subtle little bit. But this video is starting to run a little bit long from all those other edits we did. I was hoping we can get through all of them. But let's go ahead and end this video here. We're going to do one last little sky replacement, blur out a little bit on this to get this last picture edited. So I'll see you in the next photo or the next video to edit this photo.